Hello, my name is Victoria, and the book I am reviewing is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This is a semi-autobiographical novel released in 1963, a month before the author's own suicide. It is now considered a classic because of how it takes the reader into the honest reality of a mental health crisis through its prose and narration. The Bell Jar tells the story of Esther Greenwood, a 19-year-old college student who dreams of becoming a poet. Unfortunately, she greatly struggles with her identity and mental health issues while doing a summer internship in New York. Her mental health worsens when she returns home. During this time, she undergoes various traumatizing treatments, such as shock therapy. She later hits rock bottom when she attempts suicide. Afterwards, she lives in many different asylums until her eventual recovery at the end of the book. The main character, Esther Greenwood, is basically a stand-in for Sylvia Plath, the author, as the story greatly matches with Plath's own experiences. Esther is extremely intelligent, studious, and misunderstood by her peers. She feels many of them talk down to her and purposely excludes her, so she spends a lot of time in calm isolation. Buddy Willard is Esther's kind of love interest. They begin the story already together, but Esther has long fallen out of love with him. He's a med student, and when the story begins, he is sick and stays in a sanatorium. He comes to represent the hypocrisy of men in the 1950s. He believes that Esther will give up on wanting to be a poet when she has a baby, and that the inconsiderate way doctors treat women giving birth is okay. Eventually, he begins falling in love with a nurse in a sanatorium, and he asks Esther to win him over. She breaks up with him instead. Joan Gilling dated Buddy before he dated Esther, and I don't think either Joan or Buddy really liked each other. I know for a fact Joan was never in love with him, and much like Esther, was just hoping to fall in love with the idea of being a trophy wife. She really acts as Esther's mirror image, and I think that Esther projects a lot of her insecurities onto Joan because of this, and she especially hates her while Joan falls in love with her while they stay together in an asylum. Esther does not feel a lot of sadness when Joan commits suicide at the end of the book. There were a lot of other characters in the story that kind of flicked in and out or were very easily dropped, which I did not love. This especially happened with a lot of the friends that Esther made while she was in New York, which I think is quite normal. But one of these characters specifically kind of irks me, and that was Doreen. She's someone Esther spends a lot of time with, but after Esther leaves New York, Doreen is never mentioned again, and we don't get a proper goodbye to her either. Esther has a lot of people in her past, and she meets a lot of different people throughout the story, but we never really truly get any insight into any of them, and I don't think that the non-linear timeline of the novel helped with this either. A lot of the conflict comes from Esther's indecision and feelings of inadequacy. This is best portrayed by the famous fig tree quote on page 81 of the novel. From the tip of every branch, like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of this fig tree, starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one meant losing all the rest, and as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle and go black, and one by one, they plopped to the ground at my feet. At this point in the story, Esther doesn't know who she is, what she wants, or what she needs. She feels she was, quote, inadequate all along, and that she simply hadn't thought about it. She spends a lot of the story contemplating her feelings about marriage and motherhood. She desperately wants to be seen as an equal to men, so when she finds out about Buddy's summer fling, she tries to seduce a lot of men in order to lose her virginity and being equal to Buddy. However, all see her as a docile wife, which Esther does not want. After breaking up with Buddy, seeing how doctors dismiss women, how men treat their wives, and losing her virginity, she gains the perspective and self-reflection to make that decision. By the end of the story, she decides she would like to never have children, and she goes on birth control and decides to never be married. The conflict in the story represents a lot of the themes in the novel. It's set in 1953 and 1954. It is also very critical of 50s culture and the way society treats women. For example, she doesn't like that she's told to just accept the fact that Buddy got to have a summer-long affair when she can never do that as a woman. On top of that, Buddy gets to act pure in spite of it and is never criticized. Another theme is death. Esther's always thinking about it and numbing herself to it, but she cannot describe its suffocation until she introduces the metaphor of being trapped in a suffocating bell jar at the end of the book. Structurally, Sylvia Plath's writing is very stream of consciousness-esque, and it's one of the book's greatest strengths. I really liked how honest, unbiased, and perceptive her narration was. It was because of her honesty that I was really able to relate and empathize with Esther throughout the story. Esther often transitions between thoughts very loosely and naturally. A lot of the time it is not always chronological, and the story has many time skips. In conclusion, I think that everybody over the age of maybe 12 should read this novel. So long as you're in the right headspace, this book features a lot of great social commentary and a beautiful story about Esther's mental health that can be very relatable, insightful, and maybe able to put into words what you may not be able to. For these reasons, I'd give the book 4 out of 5 stars. Have a wonderful day.